Hello and welcome to NHL Best Bets. First, we can review a bit yesterday's results. We had there few picks, but how do you see, Tommy, how these first games in NHL have been? Do the teams play as we predict, or has there been any big surprises so far?
Yeah, not a lot of big surprises so far. Most of the favorites have held their ground, and there hasn't been a lot of big surprises. Of course, the likes of Ottawa, for example, last night was a bit of a surprise, but we knew to expect a lot of grinding from that team, and they were able to up in Toronto. But to go through a little bit of the results from last night, we had, of course, another winning night, which is now has been quite a new normal for us. So we had Washington winning Buffalo with a couple of percentages over the line of the odds makers. Washington won 1-2. The second goalkeeper Vanecek got his first NHL start and the first win as well in Washington. So that was Ilya Samsonov's first absence, so they also have now a backup keeper with a win. Then going to Battle of Pennsylvania, which we of course love, the Philadelphia Flyers, as we predicted before the season, to take the throne in the Eastern Division. Philadelphia Flyers won the first one and now in the second one as well, 5-2. It was 50% for Philadelphia, 50% for Penguins in our simulations, but Philadelphia had a little bit of an underdog odds there, so another value pick from us in there. Then Tampa Bay, Chicago, a clear one, like we mentioned last night's video. That was 5-2 for Tampa. We had them winning 71% against the odds of around 66%. So correct again. Then the one of our favorites, Colorado Avalanche, took their revenge against St. Louis. We were thinking that they need to score more goals. They need to find a way to trick themselves inside the defensive zone of Blues, and they definitely did that. Scored 8 goals, 8-0 there. So it was a good selection from us, and Colorado won their first game of the season. The last but not least was then the Canadian battle with Ottawa and Toronto, which we thought that Toronto is gonna take, but Ottawa showed that they're not there for they're not pushovers anymore. They did definitely play well. They defended really well and grinded their way to victory, so they won 5-3. So that was an incorrect pick from our side.
Yeah. Here you can see the results from last night. So Colorado with reasonably good odds were correct, but then Toronto wiped out all the winnings. So we end up losing a bit and adding that to season results. I think Ottawa-Toronto game, there was this second period 5-minute time frame when Ottawa took the game, and they switched 2-1 defeat to 4-2 lead and never surrendered that one in those 5 minutes middle of the second period. So I think this kind of slumps are of course not good for any team, but it looks like Toronto is a team that will have this, like we saw in the first game against Montreal. The first period was not very good hockey from Toronto. How about then these overall numbers? Because you said that we have been winning again, like today or yesterday, and we also overall numbers were pretty good day before. So how do you see, or how do you read the numbers that we got out of these all games?
Yeah, pretty well, except for our picks. Everyone keeps winning, so we should maybe just skip this and use the system. But yeah, overall the season has started really well. We made 20 picks out of 20 picks here, 13 correct, 7 wrong, profit of 269 at the moment. In the side value picks and in the money line, the same record, 13, 7 and profit of 196. So both are profitable at the moment. Of course, side value is the one that we prefer to look at. It's pretty well in the positive. Also in the over-unders, the totals, which are really tricky this season, I think, with a lot of lines changing constantly, and also quite questionable how much goals are going to be scored in this short season, and all the changes in lineups and all this. So we have picked 15 games, 9 correct, 6 wrong, profit of 240 there. So it's also going okay, and if this keeps on going, we're going to accumulate nice winnings. But let's try to pick a little bit better so we look better as well, because now the system is just beating us. So what do you think next round? Does it have any valuable picks there?
Yeah, I think there is, but I think it is quite interesting that high-end expert like us cannot get any better numbers from betting markets, and then our simulation just overall by predicting each and every game is performing very well and very accurate. So this reminds me a little bit about the NFL, where we have been leading or being top 5 predictor of those games in NFL Peak Watch, and that shows that simulation or any kind of AI-based systems like us or 538 team rankings, number fire, we usually, especially in the long run, when we take 5 seasons or so, we always beat let's say experts. And those experts are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars every season just to speak interesting topics of sports in TV. But we can very clearly see as a fact that they don't know too much about predicting. They can be funny and they can have good stories, inside information of the teams and players, but I wouldn't trust them to pick not a single game. But like I said, we also need to improve, and I think it starts today. There are a lot of games. We have early games. Boston visits New Jersey, and then another early game. San Jose goes to or continues in Arizona. San Jose won in shootout 2 days ago. Arizona had every keys to win the game. They had 2-0 in overtime, couldn't score there. They hit the pipe in overtime, bounced out. But now we feel that they are ready to grind and provide reasonable good value here against San Jose. And then other game, Montreal visits Edmonton. Edmonton was a bit sleepy in their first game, but then second game that they played, they started to show what they can do, especially guys like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl scored and recorded points as we expect, 1.5 per game per each of those players. And for whatever reason, Montreal is predicted or by the bookmakers to have a good game over there in Edmonton, but our simulation very clearly show that these two teams are not in the same level, and Edmonton should be in very good position to first of all win it and naturally continue the run that they started 2 nights ago. And again, Edmonton relies their 2.5 meter tall goalkeeper Mikko Koskinen, who saved 38 shots in last game. He was planned, or at least we thought that it would be 50-50 playing time between him and Mr. Smith, but it looks like Koskinen is now the clear number 1 as he's starting a third game out of 3 games. Any other picks that or any games that you think make sense to watch and generate some interest for the bettors?
Yeah, for the value, there is not a lot of choice tonight. These two picks were definitely the best ones, and of course, I'm rooting for Arizona. This is actually Phoenix Coyotes, but the same team, nevertheless. There is a couple of interesting games, though. The early one starting in about an hour in New Jersey. There is Boston will start Jaroslav Halak in the goal, so a little bit of a change there. Boston has a little bit of value against a quite bad New Jersey team, so it's something to look early on. Otherwise, of course, New York Rangers will get their chance to revenge Islanders at home in Madison Square Garden. We have our Rangers a tiny bit favored there, but just it's very, very close game. Also, Rangers are starting the other Russian in their goal, so Alexander Georgiev will get the nod. In other games, not so many valuable ones. Nashville, Columbus, again, we are predicting quite a low-scoring affair. It's the Finnish goaltender Juuse Saros should start for Nashville, not confirmed yet, but Columbus will go with Elvis, so the Latvian youngster who fights Joonas Korpisalo for the number one keeper there. So good goaltenders again, young guys, some promise there. Low scoring game expected. Nashville a tiny favorite there. Then we have the Calgary, Vancouver in North in Canada, very evenly matched again, but we have Calgary winning that one quite clearly actually. Yeah, I was messing up the numbers, but yeah, we go with Calgary in this case. So a lot of interesting games, not too many valuable ones except the ones that we picked. So let's see how it goes. Maybe the system will beat us again, but we have to get it right eventually by taking the same games as the system is. So let's hope for the best.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting games. How do you see the total market here? Because I see that there are a few games with total line 6.5, and of course that's quite high number when we have used to have 5.5 goals in many years basically as a standard total line. For example, Toronto and Ottawa, they have a rematch now, and line is 6.5. Do you think it would make sense to bet under here?
It's a tricky one, of course. The odds makers are reacting really fast to the amount of goals scored in early on the season. So the lines are on the rise, and of course they are also fluctuating a lot depending on how the gamblers are putting their money forth. So I personally don't like the unders because I like the team scoring goals. And I find it a bit risky at this point in the season because defensively a lot of teams are not really there yet. They still have the talented players. They have not forgotten how to score goals. So I would steer away a little bit from the unders unless there is a clear value to be had there. At the moment, I don't see a lot of those happening. But of course, people are betting on the over all the time, so the lines keep on probably going high. And then if you have these games that normally would have 5.5 line, they can easily climb up to 6.5. Then you have to check for the under. But maybe give a week or so to see a little bit how the developments in the defensive play and also how many points are being scored will go from here.
Yeah, and I think this Ottawa-Toronto game is interesting also otherwise that, as we said, our pick was Toronto yesterday. Now they are playing back-to-back, and this second game may maybe show quite a bit which direction Ottawa is going. Are they pushovers, like you said, they won't be anymore, or are they really team that can compete over there in a Scotia North Division? And when I was checking the historical stats during the last 3 seasons, of course, Ottawa was one of the, let's say, worst teams in the league. Their home win percentage was 43.7%, but their back-to-back home win percentage is only 27.8%. And we have here a little bit value for Ottawa, but these kind of numbers naturally steer away that you shouldn't bet for the team that is so poorly performing back-to-back home games. Naturally, this is second game of the season, and they should be quite fresh in any case. But we'll see after it that can Ottawa, let's say, beat the statistics and show something else that they have shown during the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's also an interesting game because it's a back-to-back, like you said, and it's likely that both of the teams will play their secondary keepers. So Jack Campbell actually, I think, is confirmed now by Toronto. So a goaltender coming from Los Angeles Kings is starting there, and it's likely that Senators will play Marcus Högberg, a Swedish goaltender. I really don't even have a lot of information on these guys, so it will be an interesting matchup as well between the pipes, because the number one keepers, Matt Murray last night definitely took the spoils compared to Frederik Andersen. So that's something that Ottawa might lose out a little bit. Not certain, of course, Högberg can be a proper goaltender, but we'll see in the evening.
Yep, that sounds very good. And we'll start to watch New Jersey-Boston game in half an hour. So good evening and good night for all the games that NFL provides for us tonight.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
See you.